There comes a moment in every man's life when he looks around and begins to notice that not every smile is genuine, not every handshake is clean, and not every person clapping is clapping for him. They're clapping to camouflage their jealousy, to mask their envy, to hide the dagger in their hand. Many of the people around you right now are not who they pretend to be. They are not friends. They are counterfeit companions. They are empty vessels echoing false loyalty, riding along on your progress, feeding off your light, and waiting. Just waiting for the perfect moment to reveal the truth of who they really are. But this is not something to fear. This is something to awaken to. Because once you can see them for who they truly are, once your spiritual eye opens, you will never again mistake proximity for loyalty, nor noise for support, nor laughter for love. You see, the journey toward your greatest self is not just about achievement. It's about discernment. Life will test your vision not only with the mountains you must climb, but with the people who pretend to be your fellow climbers, when in truth they are the snakes wrapped around your ankle, whispering, "You don't belong up here." The enemy doesn't always come dressed in red with a pitchfork. Sometimes the enemy calls you brother. Sometimes she says, "I got your back." Sometimes he says, "I'm proud of you." And yet there is no pride in his voice, only poison behind his smile. Some of the loudest voices cheering for you in public are the very same voices that speak curses against you in private. They don't want your growth. They want your downfall. They don't admire you. They envy the fire within you that they could never ignite in themselves. And instead of building their own path, they try to sabotage yours. Why? Because your success becomes a mirror, showing them what they could have done had they been disciplined, had they been faithful, had they been courageous. Your consistency is a threat. Your rising is a reminder that they have stayed the same, so do not be surprised when the very people you celebrated start to shift, when your circle starts to shrink, when silence replaces support. When their energy changes the moment your level does. The truth is, growth exposes deception. Your higher self will require a higher standard of association. As you rise, the air gets thinner, not just for your lungs, but for your circle. Because not everyone is meant to go with you. Some were only passengers for the first part of the journey. Their assignment in your life has expired. But because you have a good heart, you keep renewing expired relationships that should have been left in the past. And that's the trap. You cannot fulfill your divine purpose if you're dragging dead weight from a past season. And make no mistake, fake friends are dead weight. They don't challenge you. They don't sharpen you. They drain you. They distract you. They delay you. And some of them, I dare say, were sent. Sent not to be your ally, but your test. Sent to see if you can tell the difference between gold and glitter. Sent to teach you the power of spiritual discernment, because discernment is the protection of the wise. Discernment is the compass of the chosen. Discernment will save you from devastation. Some of the most painful moments in your life were not because of failure or fate, but because of misplaced trust. You trusted a mask. You confused affection with alignment. Let me remind you, not everyone who walks with you is walking for you. Sometimes the most dangerous place a dreamer can be is in the company of a fake friend, because a fake friend is worse than an enemy. You know what to expect from an enemy, but a fake friend, that's a betrayal waiting to unfold, a time bomb disguised as a bond, a Judas hiding in plain sight. And hear me now. If you are to rise into the fullness of who you are, if you are to manifest the vision that burns in your soul, you must cut off access to those who only pretend to support you. If their energy shifts when you wing, cut them off. If they disappear in your valleys but reappear in your harvest, cut them off. If they mock your discipline, dismiss your dreams, or gossip behind your back, cut them off, not with bitterness, not with rage, but with wisdom, with clarity, with understanding that your destiny is too precious to be surrounded by duplicity, that your calling is too great to be diluted by those who walk with you but war against you in silence. You need people who will pray for you when you're weak, people who will tell you the truth even when it hurts, people who won't celebrate your failure behind closed doors, then send you "stay strong" texts to keep up appearances. You deserve real ones, not perfect people, but pure people, people with hearts aligned to yours, people who rise with you not just in status, but in soul. The problem is, we often tolerate fake friends because we're afraid of being alone. But the truth is, solitude is better than betrayal. Peace is better than company that comes with a price, and I would rather walk alone in truth than be surrounded in deception. Because when you walk alone, you walk with power. You walk with God, and in that space you develop vision, you develop resilience, you develop the kind of inner strength that no fake friend can manipulate. Remember, the pruning is proof of progress. When people fall away from your life, it is not always rejection. It is protection. The removal is divine. The distance is deliverance. You prayed for elevation, and God responded with separation. That's how the process works. The spotlight exposes what the shadows conceal, and when your light begins to shine, it forces the masks to come off. Suddenly you see who's real, you see who claps with sincerity, and who claps with a grudge. The one who laughed at your vision behind your back, but smiled in your face. The one who never believed in you, but acted like they did just in case you made it. The one who told your secrets. The one who copied your dreams. The one who tried to replace you. All of it becomes clear when you grow. Growth is the great revealer, the great separator, the great purifier, so let them leave, let them exit, let them remove themselves. And let the space they leave behind become the garden where new, real, divine relationships can be planted. You're not losing friends, you're losing lies, you're not being abandoned, you're being elevated. You're not alone, you're being aligned, and you're not broken. You're being built, in silence, in solitude, in strength. For the real ones are coming, but first, you must release the fake. And as you walk this path, notice how your intuition sharpens. Every subtle twitch of discomfort in your spirit becomes a neon sign alerting you to the presence of illusion. You will sense the weight of false warmth pressing against your back, urging you forward, but draining you at the same time. You will feel the difference between a hand that lifts you and fingertips that merely brush you. When you learn to trust that inner signal, you no longer need the applause of the hollow-hearted. You need only the quiet conviction that you are marching toward your purpose. You will discover that every moment of solitude is a sanctuary for your soul. In those sacred minutes alone, your dreams are whispered into existence, and the mercenaries of mockery have no access. Remember the power of your own company. In the stillness, you find ideas that fake friends would have scoffed at. In the silence, you hear the guidance that drowned in their chatter. In the calm, you build the courage that they could never borrow. You craft your character in the kiln of integrity, while they try to mold you with the cold clay of compromise. Look around you now. How many relationships require you to dim your light so they can shine? How many conversations force you to pretend you are someone you are not? Each time you sacrifice authenticity for approval, you chip away at your foundation, and when the storm comes, as storms inevitably do, you will not stand on rock but on sand. So instead, choose the friction that forges steel over the polish that rusts. Choose the friends who give you friction, who challenge your assumptions, who question your motives, who demand that you become better over the ones who stroke your ego while starving your greatness. True companionship is a two-way street paved with honesty, accountability, and mutual respect. Fake friendship is a back alley of convenience and calculation. You will meet people who join your journey for the view, not for the climb. They will tell you this is beautiful, while refusing to sweat beside you, and when the path steepens, they will slip away, leaving you to scramble alone. Let them go. Do not resent their departure. Thank them for the lesson. Because now you know that anyone who cannot walk through difficulty with you also cannot celebrate your victory. As your sphere of trust becomes smaller, watch how your energy becomes larger. As you prune away the counterfeit, the genuine flourish. Invitations will come from those who see your worth not as a threat, but as a beacon. Conversations will deepen, laughter will heal, encouragement will resonate in your bones. That is the harvest of discernment. And understand this, your destiny is not a solitary summit. It is a summit shared with those whose loyalty is born of character, whose faith is forged in fire, and whose love is rooted in truth. The real ones are not fair, weather companions, they are storm, seasoned soldiers. They will march beside you when it costs them time, resources, or comfort. They will speak truth that stings because they value your soul more than your smile. They will keep no ledger, tally no favors, but give because they have been given much. Now, feel the liberation that comes with shedding dead leaves. In their place, new shoots of genuine connection will push through the soil. Networks of trust will wrap around you like webs of strength. Bonds tested by trial will hold fast through any gale, and in that garden of sincerity you will flourish as never before. This unveiling of the real is the ultimate victory, not the victory over others, but the victory over deception within your circle and within yourself. Because to spot a fake, you needed first to confront the counterfeit in your own heart. You needed to release the masks you wore to please them. You needed to stop pretending, to stop numbing, to stop settling. And having done that, you stand in your own light, and, undiluted, unashamed, unbroken, you are free to love, to trust, and to thrive. Because when you become a magnet for the real, everything inauthentic begins to repel itself. It doesn't take confrontation, it doesn't take drama, it doesn't even take a final conversation. Your frequency alone will begin to disturb the fake. Your growth will convict them. Your peace will unnerve them. And slowly they will vanish, not because you pushed them away, but because they never truly belonged to where you are now headed. Let them misunderstand you, let them mislabel you, let them call your separation ego. They will never understand the cost of staying true to yourself because they've never paid it. They've always played roles, they've always worn masks, they've always lived behind curtains. So when you rip your own curtain down, they panic. Because exposure is terrifying to those who build their lives on disguise. You are not for everyone, and that is your power. You are not here to be liked by the masses. You are here to walk with the few whose spirits recognize your light, whose values match your vision, whose presence multiplies your purpose, and you will know them not by their words, but by their actions. They won't have to tell you they're real, you'll feel it. Real ones don't compete. They collaborate. Real ones don't envy, they elevate. Real ones don't gossip, they guard. Real ones don't disappear in darkness. They become the torchbearers that remind you of your own fire. And you'll look back at the version of yourself that once begged to belong, that once entertained the fake for the sake of fitting in, and you'll smile, not with regret, but with wisdom, because it took that journey to discover your worth. It took betrayal to teach you boundaries. It took heartbreak to teach you honor, and it took loneliness to lead you to alignment. You begin to recognize that the greatest friendships are not built in celebration, but in adversity. They are forged in the fires of trial, where silence is heavy and help is rare. That's where you find the few who show up, stand close, and stay. They don't need invitations. They don't need recognition. They don't need to be seen doing good. They do it because goodness is who they are, not a role they play, not a mask they wear, not a strategy to gain favor. These are the people you're making room for when you walk away from the fake. These are the souls worth waiting for, worth protecting, worth investing in. But they cannot find you if you're still clinging to the counterfeit. You must become unavailable to what drains you to attract what builds you. You must set a new standard for what you allow, because every fake friend you tolerate is a signal to your soul that you're still settling. Every time you smile through dishonesty, laugh through disrespect, or agree through discomfort, you're not being noble, you're being dishonest with yourself. And that disloyalty to your own soul is far more dangerous than the betrayal of others. You deserve friendships where your presence is not a burden, but a blessing, where your wins don't shrink others, but inspire them. where your vulnerability isn't used against you, but held with sacred trust. You deserve that, and the only thing standing between you and it is your willingness to say no more to the ones who only show up to take. There are people out there praying for someone like you, people who need your wisdom, your love, your loyalty, but they can't find you until you clear the clutter of the counterfeit. They won't even recognize you until you shed the skin you wore to keep fake people comfortable. And when you finally let go, when you finally say, I choose truth even if it costs me company, you begin to walk the narrow path, the one few ever find, and that recognition. It's rare, but it's unmistakable. There's a kind of peace that settles when you're finally surrounded by those who don't need to be convinced of your value. They see it, they honor it, they reflect it. And you, in turn, begin to heal from all the times you were mishandled by people who only loved you for what you could do for them. Because fake friends don't love you. They love the benefits of being near you. They love the spotlight that reflects off your light. They love the comfort of your loyalty, even when they have none to offer in return. They love the version of you that doesn't outshine them, the version that dims itself to keep their ego safe. The version that stays silent when they mock your vision. But when you shift, when you begin to walk in power, to speak with authority, to act on your vision without needing their permission, they feel threatened. Not because you've harmed them, but because they can no longer control the old version of you they were comfortable with. And that is when their true nature shows. Suddenly, the support becomes silence. The encouragement becomes sarcasm. The unity becomes subtle sabotage. They plant seeds of doubt. They ask questions not to understand, but to unsettle. They show up not to support, but to spectate, hoping secretly to see you stumble. That's not love. That's spiritual warfare disguised in friendship. But here's the truth. Once you've seen behind the mask, you can't unsee it. Once you've heard the tone in their voice when you share good news, you can't unhear it. Once your spirit registers that off energy, the hesitation in their clap, the delay in their praise, the fakeness in their concern, you begin to understand that your destiny cannot afford the weight of double-minded people. This journey you're on, it's not for spectators, it's for soldiers. It's for those who bleed with you, who fight with you, who grow with you, those who sharpen you with truth and cover you with prayer. You don't need more people around you. You need the right people beside you. And to find them, you must first become the person who no longer accepts what doesn't resonate with the calling on your life. You stop being available to the ones who dim your light. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to rescue those who choose to live in envy. You stop building tables for people who only bring forks. You stop pretending not to see what you know deep down to be true, because every time you allow the fake to stay, you betray the real part of yourself. You delay your alignment. You postpone the connections that are actually meant for you. The ones who would water you, the ones who would warn you, the ones who would war with you if necessary, not for attention, but for your elevation, and the moment you decide to fully detach from the inauthentic, something in you shifts. Your mind clears, your energy rises, your time becomes sacred again, your creativity flows again, your vision sharpens. You begin to remember who you were before you started shrinking to fit into rooms never meant for you, before you started doubting your intuition just to keep the peace with people who never brought you peace. And you realize it was never you that was the problem. It was your presence in the wrong environments. Your loyalty to people who were only loyal to your potential, never to your soul. Your efforts spent on trying to prove your worth to those who had already made the decision not to value it. But that season is over. And when that difference settles into your bones, you no longer negotiate with it. You no longer water what withers you. You no longer explain yourself to people who are fluent in betrayal but illiterate in accountability. You no longer hope that one day they'll finally treat you right, because deep down you understand it's not that they didn't know how to treat you. It's that they didn't want to. They knew your value. That's why they stayed close. They saw your light. That's why they tried to dim it. They felt your power. That's why they mocked your discipline. And the saddest part is, most of them weren't strangers. They were friends, trusted ones, ones you prayed with, ones you laughed with, ones you would have defended in a room full of knives, and yet they were the ones who handed out the sharpest blades. But now you see it clearly. Now you recognize the price of ignoring red flags just to avoid being alone. Now you realize that false loyalty is worse than open hatred, because it disguises itself in affection. And now you know, the most dangerous enemy is not the one who opposes you loudly, but the one who pretends to stand beside you silently while hoping you fall. This awareness doesn't make you bitter, it makes you wise. It makes you strategic. It makes you alert, because you start to protect your peace with the same passion you once used to defend their dishonor. You stop handing out access just because someone used to know the old version of you. You stop measuring loyalty by history and start measuring it by fruit. Let them say you've changed. Let them whisper that you've become different. That's the point. You have changed. You're not who you were when you tolerated disrespect. You're not who you were when you mistook manipulation for mentorship. You're not who you were when you thought that having a crowd meant you had a community, because now you'd rather walk alone in truth than be surrounded in falsehood. Now silence doesn't scare you, and authenticity does. Now your circle has fewer people but greater power. Now you understand that the fewer voices around you, the easier it is to hear the one voice that truly matters. Your inner guide, your purpose, your divine compass. And that voice will never lead you to stay where your soul is suffocating. That voice will never tell you to keep sowing where nothing grows. That voice will never ask you to lower your standards just to keep someone else comfortable. And when you begin to obey that voice fully, your life begins to shift in ways you can't explain. Opportunities show up that no fake friend ever helped you find. Peace flows in places where chaos used to live. And those who once underestimated you, they begin to feel the void of your absence. They see the doors opening that they were never allowed to walk through, not because of you, but because of the posture of their heart. You see, fake friends don't just rob you of peace, they rob you of position. As long as you keep carrying their weight, you can't climb. As long as you keep explaining yourself, you can't create. As long as you keep trying to fit in, you'll never break out. You are not here to blend, you are here to break through. So stop shrinking. Stop apologizing for your growth. Stop inviting people into rooms they're not called to. Stop pretending you don't see what you've already discerned. Because you were never meant to be liked by the fake. You were meant to expose the fake by being fully real. And when you walk in that, some will leave. Let them go quietly. Let them slip into the background where they always belonged. Because their departure is your deliverance, their absence is your alignment, their silence is your signal. You've stepped into something they could never carry, so let them walk, let them whisper, let them doubt. Because you were never built for shallow friendships, lukewarm loyalty, or conditional love. You were built for something deeper, something greater, something unshakable. And every fake friend that fell away was a necessary subtraction so that the real ones could find their way in. You are no longer who you were when you tolerated the bare minimum in the name of companionship. Now you know peace is power, alignment is wealth, loyalty is sacred, and real friendship, that's a covenant, not a contract. It doesn't break when things get hard. It doesn't shift when the spotlight moves. It doesn't flinch when you succeed. So walk forward with your head high and your circle clean, love without fear, trust with discernment. And never again forget this. When God begins to elevate you, He will first separate you, not to hurt you, but to heal you, not to punish you, but to prepare why